morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever it is you are listening back to this interview. I hope you are enjoying it. So my name is Des Ryan. I'm a business coach with Action Coach, and the idea of our business spotlight interviews are to highlight some of our key business owners across the country to find out how they're getting on, what challenges they've had, and how they are going to, I suppose, get on in the next 6 months and beyond. So delighted to welcome Gavin Fox here today. So I'm not going to introduce Gavin anymore. I'm going to let Gavin do that. So Gavin, over to you. You're very welcome.
Thanks, Des. It's great to talk to you today. So a bit about myself. I'm Gavin Fox. I'm one of the directors in Martinsen Meyer. We're a boutique technology recruitment business that focuses on primarily Series A and seed funded SaaS businesses. We primarily recruit Ireland, Europe. We do some West Coast, East Coast, but you know, where technology is borderless at the moment. So it's been an interesting journey to kind of figure out the new way of recruiting or the new way of attracting talent. And yeah, no, I also run a few meetups within technology, so I'm going to be the Dublin chapter lead for SaaS Stock Local, which is going to be a quarterly meetup in supporting the SaaS Stock annual event that takes place in Dublin in October.
Very good, very good. So obviously recruitment, a really hot topic at the moment, from every industry, every business. I don't think we've got a client out there who isn't recruiting right now. So tell me what's changed. What has COVID done to your recruitment processes?
COVID has been the secret sauce that was missing, I think, for recruitment, especially in Ireland, for recruitment industry anyway. So I've been in recruitment 15 years and it's gone through many different peaks and troughs and different ways of working and everything. The introduction of LinkedIn, you know, moving away from everybody having the biggest database in the world to everybody having access to the same people, and now you have different techniques to use for attraction. So like life before COVID-19 to life after COVID-19, everybody was, you know, everybody has their own stories, but the biggest difference I think that the pandemic has made for recruitment is, you know, it is borderless now. Companies are, specifically technology first SaaS businesses anyway, are pretty open on where people work, remote, fully remote, hybrid options. If you're not going to, you know, if companies aren't going to offer a flexible working environment, people are going to leave. I think the fear has left a lot of people on moving jobs. I've seen a lot more female candidates come into the market that wouldn't have been around maybe 2 years ago, because, you know, there's stats everywhere about, you know, women need to have 95% of a job spec to be able to apply for it, while men will do it at 50-60% on a whim. So, you know, people have looked at themselves, they had a bit of time to themselves, they realized what they actually wanted out of the world, and they don't want to work 46 million hours a day anymore. They want to work for companies that have a purpose. They want to work for companies that are actually giving back to them and not just taking. So like that has been the big change in the world of recruitment. It's a lot more candidate driven. There's a hell of a lot of jobs around, which means it's, you know, your talent acquisition strategy has to be good, be it partnering with a consultancy or an agency like ourselves. If it's a direct model, that you have your response rates done. You know, it is a extremely busy market. Like if you even take it with ESB announcing 1,000 jobs, you know, yes, they're going to hire different apprentices and all that, but that's 1,000 people off the work registry that are going to come into their world. And I think in the last month or two, there's been something like 8,000 jobs announced in Ireland alone. So, you know, it is a massive war. It is that atypical war for talent, and COVID-19 has really emphasized that point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, as you say, borderless would be a good description of it, because like you can technically work from anywhere, not just in Ireland, but across the world. if it's the right candidate, obviously.
Yeah, and that comes back to the leadership aspect of a business. I think a lot of businesses were scared for the first 2 or 3 months. They weren't sure. Like the recruitment industry shut down for 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
But what you've actually seen are real leaders come forward in businesses that are, willing to change. And a lot of probably businesses, Bank of Ireland have gone completely remote. You can work with any of their hubs. Would you have said that would have been an option 5 years ago? I don't think so for that type of a business. But there's a lot, that's strong leadership at the top to say we're going to empower our people. And so, that is very important. And people want to work for leaders, and people want to work for people who are going to make them better. But again, that borderless, faceless people, you only see them on Zoom or you see them on video calls and you don't get to actually meet them. That's a challenge on its own. And companies are still struggling to figure out how to retain their staff. It's great to hire them, but it's triple the cost when they leave. So, the big bit that companies need to get right is the retention strategy. And as a recruiter, I hope they don't.
Yeah, well, I suppose we did a webinar last week, and it looked at those 3 areas. It looked at it looked at 3 areas. It looked at recruitment, it looked at retention, and then it looked at performance management of people once they're in the business. So all key areas going forward. So look, you're working with lots of businesses. Who's your best business? Who's your best customer?
We've lots of great customers. I'll come back to the customer side. I always look at my customers as everybody. So not just the people that give you business. It's candidates in my world. If I don't like anybody who buys off me or my business or the people that work for us, they're our customers. So I worked in a previous business called Harvey Nash and worked with a guy called David Burke who heads up Workhuman Talent Acquisition in there now. And we changed our kind of psyche about customers as about 5 years ago around, everybody's your customer. I was always told that, the person at the front door of a building is as important as the person who sits at the top table. And how you treat them as you come into the business or into an environment. If somebody opens the door for you to the person that's sitting at the table, you never know who they are, what they do, and that's how you build up a good customer base. Being genuine, being as open and honest to people as you can be, and that's very much in my environment a candidate side of things as much as a client. If I don't have candidates, my clients won't work with me. If I don't have a good rapport with candidates, irrespective of how great I am, or what I do, or my clients think I'm great, if I have nothing to sell to them, they won't be my clients too long. So I like to focus firstly as customers as candidate side of things, and our best customers there are the people that want to engage with us. Like there's some very interesting stats around. Candidates are getting like 60 to 90 messages a week on recruitment. So if you're not, known, trusted, seen on, LinkedIn or wherever you go, will they come back to you? If I like to call selling cycles as how you buy a car these days. You don't go into a dealership anymore and say, what cars do you have? You go into a dealer and say, I've looked at 12 cars online and I want to try these 2 cars because they're the ones I think are best for me. And that's what people do when you contact them. They'll click on your LinkedIn, as I did with you, when you read all that kind of stuff. You looked at me. That's what you do now. You do that social dance outside of the meeting. Yeah. So you decide to engage with that person rather than, the old way of, receiving a phone call and talking with somebody. It's actually a date nearly at this stage. You send out an invite and you have a date. And if you hit it off, they work with you.
100%. Absolutely. But I think it's a really good valid point you're making in relation to the quality of the candidates, the better quality of candidates that you can attract into your business, the better relationship you will keep with your best businesses and your best clients.
Yeah, and like we've some really great clients. We've like as I said, our businesses are scaling SaaS businesses. So we work with businesses like Keenan Lennon's Clever Cards, who are building like a payment portal and you know B2B payments. Really successful business. It's going really well. And then we work with like larger Irish success stories like Finergo, Mark Murphy's business, where we do some work with them. You know, it's not. Our business doesn't focus on the large US multinationals. We focus primarily on, you know, that small 0 to 100 seater for 95% of our business model. So that allows us to get to know our customers extremely well. And I think it's in any business that you have to get to know your customer and they have to get to know you to have any long-term relationships. You know, I haven't done a business development call, I think, in about 18 months. We get a lot of inbound traffic. We've built up some very good rapport with people, some good relationships. They refer us business. Does everybody like me or my business? I'm pretty sure no on that answer. You know, it's a very competitive market. So you do have to get to know people. It was very difficult over the last 24 months to do that. So you are trading on your past experiences in that. But it is about still meeting people. I do a lot of thought leadership myself with interviews, and you know, I try and share as much content as I can. I saw a talk by Des Traynor in Intercom, and he always like their secret sauce is they give all their information away. They tell everybody what they're doing, and people can read it and then decide to engage or not engage. Okay. And I try and do that myself. I try and give as much about me out and talk to people as I can and see if they want to, you know, work with us.
So, a couple of quick fire questions for you. So, what's your biggest learning since you've gone into your current business?
Not to overstretch yourself and overcommit. That was the first thing I learned. You know, make sure you have enough money to keep paying your bills. That's very important. And, you know, there's a fine balance between growth and stupidity. If you're, you know, bootstrapping or paying for yourself, or whichever way you want to call it, if you're not getting in funding, you have to make sure that you have X plays Y and you can keep going. Keep your authenticity as something is really important. People buy off you and buy your business, and if you have an interesting story and you can be, you know, engaging with them and you can be open with them and you can tell them as honestly as you can, that comes back to you in buckets. And not try to be somebody you're not in a business context. Like, we aren't a CPL, we aren't a Hayes, we aren't those big multinational international companies. I don't want to be them, and I don't want us to ever get to that stage. I want to have a very strong Irish brand, and I want to make sure people know who we are and trust who we are and want to engage with us, and don't just engage with us because we're a high street brand that a lot of people would just engage those types of brands because they know them.
Yeah, super. So again, I'm not sure if this is going to be any different. What advice would you give to the 18-year-old you? You're just a little bit beyond that yourself now at this moment in time. So a couple of years.
I just turned 40 in May. So yeah, the 18. Actually, I was having this conversation with somebody recently, and they're doing their Leaving Cert this year, and they were getting very stressed about, what am I going to do? I was like, you're 18, 19. Like, I left college at 25. I took my time leaving, and I did fall into recruitment, as most people do, and I've been there since. But you have zero clue about life at 18. You might think you do. So my 18-year-old, try everything. Like, college isn't the be all and end all. I'd love to be like a trade. I'd love to have a trade. I'd love to have worked in more organizations. I'd love to have, you know, tried more things before I went to college. I went to computer applications and left after 6 weeks. I was like, this isn't for me. There's no future in computers. That was the best thing I ever did. You know, I was 19 and I made a decision for myself that wasn't, I lived 9 minutes from my house to the main lecture hall in DCU. That was why I was going to DCU. I made that decision and I, you know, went that way. I would also say to every 18-year-old is get a job. Like, you learn so much about working part-time. I worked from delivering papers all the way through to where I am now. But I worked in a lot of retail settings, and I just speaking to people. The biggest superpower a person has in a business setting is communication. And if you can communicate effectively, but if you can just talk to people in a normal human manner, you'll go miles.
Super. Love that. Absolutely love that. Try everything. Really, really important. And communication, it's so undervalued these days in business, and it is absolutely crucial to every part of a business, from, as you say, the first person who you meet right to the top person on the rung. Communication, if it's working, the business is in a much better place.
Yeah, I feel sorry for 18-year-olds coming through. I was listening to a Brezzy podcast there about mental health, and my eldest daughter's 9, and I'm going, it's a tough world for kids at the moment. Like,
tough.
Everybody wants you to be perfect, and being perfect is the hardest thing in the world to be. Like, we've all made mistakes, business mistakes, personal mistakes. Nothing is bigger than being able to put your hand up and saying, yeah, that was my fault, I'm very sorry. And the human side of things comes through more than anything, and especially in a business context. Look at the best, CEOs that you would perceive in Ireland, and they're all very likable or dislikable, but they have a personality about them, and the people, you look at the Bezoses and those type of things, they just feel plastic and fake, and they never have had a hard day's life or day's work in their life, really. You look at them and you go, Jesus, okay, yeah. Versus you look at pick somebody in Ireland and you go, yeah, they probably had a part-time job at 16 somewhere in the shop.
Yeah. My first boss would be Fergal Quinn, so I can certainly say he worked his way up, He
walked the aisles even when he was Fergal Quinn.
100%. Packed bags, kissed babies and shook hands with mothers, and it was the way he did stuff. So one last final question from me, Gavin, and that's, like, where do you see business growth in the next 6 months? Where is it going to come from?
This is the hardest. This is the $1 million question. We're sitting down as me and my business partner about, we had a business plan drawn up 6 months ago, and we're looking at that business plan going, is that even right anymore? So
great point, by the way. How often do we check in on our business plans?
Yeah. So, I'd see growth through, I'd love to say acquisition if I had the bankroll at the moment, but organic growth is difficult, very difficult. Hiring people is expensive. So partnerships would probably be the best way to go in a growth setting. We want to double our revenue from last year. That was our first our accountant nearly bought the budget we set for ourselves, and challenged us on us. And Jeff is a great person for that. So yeah, we want to, like, if I'm sitting here this time, the end of December, and you say, did you have a good year? I'm going to say yes. Outstanding year if we get to the figure we want to get to, but yes anyway, because we've brought in 5 people into our business who've now established themselves in the business and are revenue generating and revenue positive, which is good, and super hard to do that. So we'd love to add more people into the business, but we want to do it in a prudent and proactive way, rather than hire 4 or 5 new people and see, like, does it stick type mentality. That's not what we're looking for. But our growth strategy is around, more partnerships. We will look at either partnerships with clients. So one of the ways we do business is we become a talent acquisition partner for the companies, and we sit with them on site, and we manage the recruitment process for them. So annuity revenue comes in that way, but also new sales as well. So that's one way we want to try and grow. Trying to get more contract business and annuity revenue to be able to future forecast our business is going to be important. But again, is that organic, or is that a partnership or a merge with another business to try and grow our numbers that way? but as I said, if somebody says to me, "You had a successful year in 12 months," if we hit our big number, yeah, outstanding. But I still think we will with what we've done so far in the first 6 months.
Super. And I think one of the things I'd like to add to that is, look, if your goals don't scare you, they're not big enough.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, me and Rob are very ambitious, and you know, I've always had a little chip on my shoulder from a young age. Always trying to beat the next person up the rung. Very sports orientated, and never really, like, I was good, but I was never really good. And you know, you always wanted to try and be really good. And I think business is the best opportunity you have to kind of be supercharged, and especially when it's a sales orientated business, the only people that are actually holding you back is yourself and your own ambition. And you know, you don't want to work every hour of the day, you don't want to commit you still have to have, you know, family time, social time, your own time. But if you put your head down and work hard, it should come back to you in a lot better ways. And it's not always revenue, it's, you know, doing things like this, or getting asked to speak, or doing loads of different things. There's loads of positives around when you work hard. Yeah,
absolutely. And you're right. Success isn't always about earning more money. It is about many things, and we all judge success differently. But
I know we're finishing up, but one of my best successes this year is getting a person a job that had left a job 2 years ago, took some time out from themselves, and went back and reskilled. And I was able to get them an entry job into a business, one of our core clients, into theirs as a product consultant, and is now flying. But you know, that really, that's stuff I really like, when, you know, you can place, you know, CTOs or senior developers or whatever. Like that's my day to day. But it's when it's you know, I do a lot of work with WITS, Women in Technology and Science, and helping people come through interview coaching, or, you know, getting back into industry or whatever. It's great. That to me is more rewarding than most of my day.
Yeah, and look, to be fair, Gavin, that tells me a lot about you as well as a person. You know, that stuff really kind of, that story about that guy getting re-skilled up and getting him into a role, great story.
Yeah.
So look, Gavin, thanks a million. Really appreciate your time. It's great having you on our Spotlight interview, and to learn a little bit more about yourself and the business. The very best of luck this year. You're going to smash those goals, I'm sure. Put your accountant back in his box, and have a super second half of the year.